Let's go Lions! Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are determined to build an unbeatable team for next season. We know that this offseason for the Detroit Lions is full of crucial decisions, emotional goodbyes, and strategic recalibrations. And yes, Lions fans, this is not your typical quiet preparation for the draft. This is an all-out, full-throttle effort to maintain and upgrade a roster that was built to compete. So, let's break down everything that's happening right now and how the Detroit Lions can become a favorite to reach the Super Bowl. I truly believe in this. I dream of seeing the Lions lift that trophy, and I know that this year we will get there. If you want to see this too, hit that like button hard. If possible, write something like, "Go Lions! I want to see you at the Super Bowl." Oh, my friends, it will be a great joy. Now let's go behind the scenes. Let's start with the big picture football philosophy. Brad Holmes has made it clear, this team is built from the trenches on out. The offensive line isn't just a unit, it's the Lions' identity. And while some fans may have groaned when mock drafts put a lineman at pick 28, Holmes' words make it clear why. You've got Taylor Decker and Frank Ragnow aging, with Ragnow's nagging toe injury always in the background. The Lions aren't waiting for that wall to break, they're reinforcing it now. Whether it's pick 28, 60, or a trade up or down, expect an offensive lineman to arrive early. This isn't speculation, this is structural philosophy. And don't overlook the veteran free agency angle either. The Lions aren't just betting on rookies. Holmes has acknowledged the need for an experienced offensive lineman, and the name floating around? Brandon Scherf. That's a legitimate target. They're not satisfied with just potential. They need insurance, leadership, and depth. Giovanni Manu, last year's big draft pick, is possibly being moved inside to guard. This is a big experiment, literally and figuratively. The guy is raw, still developing, and changing positions mid-development is never a simple plug-and-play. But the Lions believe the upside is there, even if they're clearly hedging their bets with veteran options. Now let's talk wide receivers. Dan Campbell dropped a subtle but crucial hint. This team needs to get younger at wideout. He's got love for the current group, but he knows what's coming. Injuries hit, age takes its toll, and guys like Tim Patrick and Caleb Raymond are not getting any younger or healthier. So yes, expect a wide receiver in this draft, likely in rounds 3 or later. They're looking for a big-bodied receiver in that 6 feet 2 inches to 6 feet 3 inches range. The Lions were blessed last season with a relatively injury-free offensive unit, but nobody's banking on lightning striking twice. Adding youth and depth at wide receiver is not a luxury, it's a necessity.
On the defensive side of the ball, the retirement of John Cominsky hit home. A gritty, reliable player who embodied the toughness this coaching staff loves, Cominsky had to walk away due to medical reasons. That's always heartbreaking, especially for a player who still had the fire but whose body just couldn't keep up. It's a loss not just in terms of depth, but in locker room presence, and Dan Campbell knows that kind of void isn't filled easily. That's why the potential reunion with Zadarius Smith is such a hot-button topic. The Lions are still in contact with his camp. It wasn't a performance issue. It wasn't a locker room problem. It was strictly financial. Holmes wants him back, but at a better price. And if Smith plays it smart, he'll realize that the Lions are offering him a chance to be part of something big. This team isn't rebuilding, it's reloading. Smith knows the system, knows the expectations, and if a rookie edge rusher is coming in, he could be that veteran presence that stabilizes the whole group. Holmes said it himself, they're keeping tabs. This is one to watch after the draft. One situation that's being handled with extreme caution, and rightly so, is the recovery of Alim McNeill. This guy is a foundational piece of the defense, fresh off a massive 4-year, $97 million contract extension. He tore his ACL late last season, and there's zero rush to get him back on the field. The Lions know what they've got in him, and they're taking the long view. No early training camp reps, no pushing for week 1. The smart money says he'll be back around week 8, and honestly, that's perfect. Because if the Lions are going to make a deep playoff run, it's McNeill they'll need fresh and ready for that back half of the schedule. This is a playoff team now, no reason to risk a long-term asset for short-term returns. Now let's turn to Jameson Williams. The Lions are picking up his 5th-year option. That's right, they're locking him in through 2026. Holmes didn't talk about an extension yet, but the path is clear. This is a prove-it year for Jamo. And it's not about talent. The physical tools are there. He's fast, he's precise in his routes, and his hands have improved. This is all about maturity. If he can grow up, focus, and stay mentally sharp, he's going to earn that long-term extension. The Lions want him. They believe in him. Now it's on him to show he belongs, not just as a contributor, but as a core piece of this offense for years to come. All of these moves, current and future, point toward one undeniable truth. The Detroit Lions are not satisfied with being a feel-good story. They're not here just to make the playoffs. They're building a team that can win in January, that can handle injuries, setbacks, and the grind of a 17-game season. Holmes and Campbell are making chess moves right now, and every one of them is aimed at long-term sustainability and short-term dominance. So what do you think, Lions fans? Are the Lions right to double down on the offensive line in the draft? Should they bring Zadarius Smith back after the draft if the price is right? And what's your take on Jameson Williams? Will he earn that long-term deal? Drop your thoughts below, because this offseason is far from over, and your voice is part of this journey. And while we're on the topic of voices that matter, Dan Campbell's recent comments weren't just coach speak. When he talks about loving the current wide receiver room but still pushing for youth, it tells you everything about this coaching staff's mindset. They're not operating from comfort, they're operating from calculated urgency. The injury luck on offense last season? That was a blessing. But as Campbell pointed out, it was just that, luck. And the NFL doesn't usually hand out blessings 2 years in a row. So if you're reading between the lines, you know the Lions are not only planning for the future, they're bracing for what could go wrong this year. And it's not paranoia, it's preparation. That's why the wide receiver move is coming. That's why depth on the offensive line isn't just nice to have, it's essential. Holmes and Campbell aren't making moves to fill out the roster. They're making moves to fill out January. They've seen what this team looks like when it's healthy and humming. But they also know one wrong injury to the wrong guy, and the wheels can fall off fast. That's the kind of awareness that separates contenders from pretenders. Speaking of awareness, let's circle back to Giovanni Manu, because this situation is super intriguing. Last year's draft pick was clearly a developmental guy, raw but massive. The idea that he might kick inside the guard changes everything. This isn't just some throwaway experiment. This could be the next piece of a long-term plan. But let's be honest, it's a risk. The technique, the footwork, the angles, all different at guard compared to tackle. But if it clicks, the Lions might have just created their own solution in-house. That would be a massive win for Holmes' draft and develop model, and it would further validate this front office's scouting acumen. But if it doesn't click, that's why they're sniffing around veterans. That's why Brandon Scherf's name isn't just smoke. Holmes knows you don't want to put your franchise quarterback behind a shaky line, especially when the team's trajectory is aimed straight at deep playoff football. Goff isn't just the starter, he's the linchpin. And with no real insurance behind him, keeping him upright is non-negotiable. And that brings us to another major chess piece, Zadarius Smith. Brad Holmes is still in contact with his agent, and you can tell this isn't over. It was never about personality. It was never about production. It was price. And when it comes to pass rushers, timing is everything. If the Lions don't get the guy they want in the draft, or even if they do, bringing in Smith afterward could be the move that ties the whole pass rushing unit together. Imagine this, a defensive front with a high-motor rookie edge rusher, Zadarius Smith, Aidan Hutchinson, and a healthy Alim McNeill later in the season. That's not just playoff ready, that's title contender territory. So Lions fans, this is your moment too. What's your read on this front office strategy? Are you on board with doubling down in the trenches? Are you confident in Jameson Williams' maturity arc? And how do you feel about Zadarius Smith potentially running it back in Honolulu Blue? Drop your thoughts, predictions, and debates. We want to hear it all. This isn't just a team anymore. It's a movement, and the ride's just getting started.